Some families were so obsessed with keeping their lineage untouched that they married within their own bloodline for generations.
Royals married other royals while they would never allow any marriage out of a royal family.
From powerful royals to remote villages, inbreeding shaped their fate in shocking ways.
Hey.
Here are some of the most inbred people of all time.
They connect on different levels than you would connect with a typical child. It's more of a soul level connection, we've always said.
Your name is?
Lorraine.
And Timmy.
Yeah.
Now, you guys grew up here in Odd, West Virginia.
The Whitaker family, residing in Odd, West Virginia, has gained attention due to their complex family history. Their lineage traces back to twin brothers, Henry and John Whitaker. Over generations, their descendants married within the family, leading to noticeable physical and cognitive effects. This long history of close relations resulted in genetic challenges that have sparked public curiosity. Some family members struggle with speech and motor skills, traits often linked to limited genetic diversity. Despite these challenges, they have never been completely isolated. Their local community has extended support, offering resources and assistance when needed. Who would have thought that choices made generations ago could have such lasting effects? This is why laws and social norms discourage such close relations today, to prevent genetic complications that can impact future generations. The Whitaker family stands as a reminder of how isolation can shape a lineage in unexpected ways.
What can you tell me about your family?
Not much.
No? You love your parents?
Yeah, I love my family.
Good family?
Walking backward?
You're about to meet a family that shouldn't exist, a family like no other. They could just be the missing link between man and ape.
Among all the odd stories, this one stands out. The Ulis family of Turkey consists of 5 siblings who walk on all fours. They became famous after a 2006 documentary. At first, scientists thought they were proof of reverse evolution, a step back in human development. But recent studies say otherwise. Researchers now believe the siblings have a condition that affected their balance. Their way of walking isn't a step backward, it's an adaptation. Despite early claims, science now sees their movement not as de-evolution, but as proof of human resilience.
No other case like the one in front of our eyes had ever been described before. There were no reports in the scientific literature of adult human beings walking on all fours.
Blues in real life. In movies and myths, blue-skinned characters belong to fantasy worlds, aliens, and mystical beings. But in the hills of Kentucky, a real family once had skin as blue as a stormy sky. They were the Blue Fugates, and their unusual appearance wasn't magic. It was genetics. A rare condition ran through their blood. Isolated in a remote town, the Fugates married within the same small group for generations. This caused a recessive gene to resurface, lowering oxygen levels in their bodies and turning their skin blue. For years, their condition was a mystery. Some whispered about curses, others saw them as wonders. But as transportation improved, new families arrived, and the Fugates married outside their circle. The blue skin slowly disappeared. Today, their descendants look like anyone else, but their story remains one of history's strangest genetic puzzles, one that once made them seem almost otherworldly. Wolfpack Family.
This is a story so incredible it seems like something out of a movie, and as you just saw, it now is. That movie, The Wolfpack, opening today, and the secrets of those young brothers finally spilling out from that apartment.
For years, 6 brothers and their sister lived locked away in a small apartment in New York City. Their father, Oscar Angulo, controlled everything. He kept the only key, rarely letting them outside. The world passed by, but they could only watch through their windows and a TV screen. Movies became their escape. They watched them over and over, memorizing every scene.
How many movies have you seen?
Let's just say over 10,000 movies.
One day, things changed. One of the brothers decided to leave the apartment, breaking the rules they had lived by for years. Slowly, the others followed. Their story amazed the world. How they built their own world inside 4 walls, and finally found the courage to step into the real one. Their journey was later documented in a film, showing the world a story that once seemed impossible.
So how many times a year would you go out?
Sometimes one.
One?
One, and then, yeah.
Heartley Sisters.
I'm really happy to be here with you, Claire, and you, Lola, and right in front of us, yep, right there, there's a camera. And people from all over the world can see you.
Everybody dreams of welcoming a new baby, but for one family, that joy came with unexpected challenges. Not once, but twice. Gwen and Scott Heartley's daughters, Claire and Lola, were both born with microcephaly, dwarfism, and other serious developmental conditions. Doctors initially thought Claire's condition was one of a kind, until 5 years later, Lola was born with the same diagnosis. Because their condition is so rare, some experts have questioned whether it has a genetic cause. But for their parents, medical labels were never the focus. Claire and Lola defied expectations, living longer than predicted and proving the doctors wrong. For Gwen and Scott, their daughter's conditions were never a limitation, just a different path. While the world reacted with curiosity and sympathy, they focused on love, not pity.
They're very intuitive. They connect on different levels than you would connect with a typical child. It's more of a soul level connection, we've always said.
Family of 181.
You see, I've just visited a family in a far-flung back block of India. It's a family with a big difference. In fact, it's the biggest family in the world.
In a time when raising a family of 5 can be tough, one man dared to take it to the extreme. 67-year-old Ziona is the head of the world's largest family, with 39 wives and 94 children. His household is a living spectacle of 161 relatives. For years, Ziona lived in a 4-story mansion with over 30 wives and more than 100 children. His home, known as Chuan Thar Run, or the House of the New Generation, was a symbol of his leadership in Baktong village. But when a woman from his family escaped and revealed shocking truths of forced marriages and control, the story went viral. Protests erupted, and lawmakers acted. The government passed a law banning polygamy, calling it a violation of women's rights. The once revered Ziona was arrested, and his empire crumbled overnight. The case became a turning point, proving that no tradition is too strong to stand against justice.
For him, it was God's word. He had to, marry these women, protect them, and as long as he could treat them all as equal wives, he could justify the fact that he was marrying each and every one of them.
Sister wives.
One of the false narratives that goes around about plural families is that there's no choice and that everybody that's in them are either a victim.
For decades, the law treated them like criminals, but they weren't hiding. They were fighting. Joe Darger and his 3 wives lived openly in Utah, despite laws banning polygamy. They weren't part of a cult. They were consenting adults raising a loving family, but just calling themselves married made them criminals. Families like theirs lived in fear of losing their kids, their homes, their freedom. But the Dargers refused to stay silent. They spoke out, showed the world their life was built on choice, and sparked a movement. More families joined, public opinion shifted, and in 2020, Utah decriminalizes polygamy. For the first time in a century, families like theirs could live without fear.
Joe, do you constantly smile? Huh?
Truth about King Tutankhamun, often referred to as the Boy King, ascended to the Egyptian throne during the 18th dynasty and ruled from approximately 1332 to 1323 BC. He lost his life at about 19 years old, and the exact cause of his loss has been the subject of extensive research and debate. In 2010, a study involving DNA testing and CT scans of Tutankhamun's mummy revealed that his parents were siblings, a result of the royal practice of inbreeding to maintain a pure bloodline. This close genetic relationship likely contributed to several health issues, including bone necrosis and a possible clubfoot. These health complications, combined with a compromised immune system due to inbreeding, may have led to his early passing. Mysterious family. The Knapp family was once considered a symbol of a unique lifestyle. Peter Knapp, 42, lived with 4 wives and 22 children in a massive house. For years, they were a tightly knit family. seemingly content in their isolated world. But whispers of strict rules and eerie silence surrounded their home. Neighbors spoke of the wives and children rarely leaving, always under Peter's watchful eye. Then, one day, an anonymous tip to authorities led to an investigation. It was revealed that the family was living under strict control, with no freedom of their own. The once celebrated family was dismantled as the authorities intervened, and their world, built on secrecy, fell apart. The case shocked the community and exposed a hidden truth. Short Creek Community. In the quiet desert town of Short Creek, the FLDS built a world of strict rules and isolation. This breakaway group from mainstream Mormonism believed in following old teachings, including large families where one man had multiple wives. Children grew up separated from the outside world, knowing only what their leaders allowed. Warren Jeffs, the group's self-proclaimed prophet, controlled every aspect of their lives. But when he was imprisoned, everything shifted. Many families left, homes were abandoned, and businesses shut down. The once thriving community became a ghost of its former self. Those who remained struggled to keep their way of life, while others tried to rebuild something new. Even now, the effects of secrecy and control linger. Short Creek stands as a reminder of a group that once ruled the town, but now exists only in traces of its past. Galvin Family. There was a family that looked like the perfect big family. 12 kids, a strict dad, and a caring mom. They were called the Galvin Family, but inside their home, life was not normal. It all started with the oldest son, Donald Jr. He was a great athlete, but in college, things changed. He started acting strangely, talking to people who weren't there, breaking things for no reason, and running into danger without fear. Then, one by one, his younger brothers started showing the same signs. Some had outbursts, some hurt themselves, and others became unpredictable. With their dad away for work and their mom hoping things would get better, the younger siblings lived in constant fear. Doors stayed locked, voices were hushed, and trouble was never far away. Their story became one of the most studied cases of mental illness. One family, 6 brothers, and a mystery that left doctors searching for answers. Pepe Sisters.
We explore the case of Christine and Leah Papin, 2 sisters who committed one of the grisliest crimes in French history.
In 1933, France was shocked by a crime that seemed impossible to understand. Christine and Leah Papin were 2 sisters who worked as maids for a wealthy family in Le Mans. They were quiet, hard-working, and always together. But one evening, something changed. The sisters suddenly turned on their employer and her daughter, leaving behind a scene that police could hardly believe. When the officers arrived, Christine and Leah sat silently as if nothing had happened. People tried to understand why this happened. Some believed their childhood played a role, growing up in a strict and difficult home, sent away at a young age, and forced to work under harsh conditions. Others thought it was because of their deep bond, which may have isolated them from the world. The case shocked France and made people question how hard lives and difficult emotions can lead to tragic decisions. It remains a mystery to this day. Yates Family Massacre. On June 20th, 2001, Andrea Yates, a mother from Houston, Texas, made a heartbreaking decision that changed her family forever. She drowned her 5 children, aged 6 months to 7 years, in the bathtub of their home. Yates had long struggled with severe postpartum depression, psychosis, and schizophrenia. Her mental health became the focus of a highly publicized trial. She was first convicted, but the ruling was later overturned. In a second trial, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity and was sent to a mental health facility. The case sparked national discussions about postpartum mental illness, the legal system, and the need for better support for struggling mothers before tragedy strikes. King Kamehameha's Legacy. King Kamehameha V left behind a lasting legacy that continues to shape Hawaii today. Though he had no children, his contributions remain visible across the islands. He oversaw the construction of Mauna Ala, the Royal Mausoleum, where Hawaii's ruling families rest. He also laid the cornerstone for St. Andrew's Cathedral, a tribute to his late brother. One of his greatest projects was Ali'iolani Hale, originally meant to be a royal palace. It later became the seat of government and still stands as Hawaii's judiciary building. Now, efforts to preserve these historic sites ensure they remain accessible to future generations. Their reopening allows Hawaiians to reconnect with their past, especially as Queen Liliuokalani's royal standard is welcomed home, a powerful symbol of Hawaii's enduring history and heritage. Fate of Viddlesbach. Many dynasties have come and gone in Europe, but the House of Viddlesbach had a history like no other. This family ruled Bavaria for centuries, shaping politics and culture in ways that still echo today. Among its most famous members were the Wittelsbach sisters, each with a story of power, loss, and unexpected turns. Empress Elizabeth of Austria, known as Sisi, was admired for her beauty, but lived a troubled life. Her sister, Duchess Sophie Charlotte, was once set to marry King Ludwig II of Bavaria, but their wedding never happened. Ludwig, famous for building fairy tale castles, later met a mysterious fate. Another sister, Marie Sophie, became the last queen of the two Sicilies. She fought to keep her husband's throne, but ended up in exile. The Wittelsbach family had its share of glory and heartbreak, like a royal drama that never really ended. Practice among ancient Egyptians. Royal incest was a common practice in ancient Egypt, meant to preserve divine bloodlines. Pharaohs often married siblings, believing it maintained their godly status, but it had its consequences. The mummy of Ramesses III, who ruled from 1186-1155 BC, reveals signs of inbreeding's impact. His lineage carried genetic weaknesses, making rulers more vulnerable to diseases and deformities. Studies of his remains show that while he was a powerful leader, internal family conflicts and genetic frailties contributed to his downfall. His own son was involved in a conspiracy to assassinate him, proving that keeping power within the family sometimes led to its own destruction. Egypt's royal bloodline may have been divine, but it was far from perfect. End of Romanov.
Ivan the Terrible dies in 1598 with no heirs. So, as with any other dynasty, this causes problems. Civil wars, dissensions, and Russia has really no solid leader for quite a long time. They call this the time of troubles.
Before World War I ended, Europe had already witnessed the collapse of mighty empires. In 1917, as World War I raged, Russia was falling apart. Tsar Nicholas II, once ruler of a vast empire, was losing both the war and his people's trust. Soldiers were dying, families were starving, and anger filled the streets. Revolution was coming.
Nicholas II is then the last Tsar of the Romanov era, comes to power in the 1890s, and some people have argued that Nicholas II was just the wrong guy in the wrong place, and that he was a good, nice, probably would have been a very good ruler in a stable environment. But because Russia was splitting itself apart and trying to both leap forward into the modern era and stay very conservative at the same time, Nicholas just couldn't handle the challenge.
By spring, the Tsar and his family were prisoners. The following summer, they were executed in a basement. The 300-year rule of the Romanovs had ended. Even before this, signs had appeared: the tragic stampede at Nicholas's coronation, his distant response to suffering, the growing unrest. The war continued, but for Russia, an era had already vanished. History or curse? The House of Braganza ruled Portugal for a long time, but some believe it was cursed. It all started with Queen Catherine of Braganza. She married King Charles II of England, but her life was full of sadness. She had no children, and her husband treated her poorly. Some say in her sorrow, she placed a curse on her own family. For years, nothing happened. But then, things went wrong. By the time King Carlos V ruled, Portugal was struggling. People were unhappy. Then, one day in 1908, the royal family was charged. King Carlos and his son didn't survive. The younger son, Manuel II, became king, but 2 years later, the monarchy was over. Was it all just history, or was the curse real? Patterns in the Basque. For centuries, the Basque people have lived in isolated valleys, keeping their traditions and language alive. But this isolation also led to a unique genetic history. Studies show that Basques have distinct DNA, with less outside influence than other European groups. This is partly due to inbreeding patterns, as marriages often occurred within small communities. Historically, Basques followed strict family traditions, sometimes marrying distant relatives to preserve land and heritage. Over generations, this led to a higher frequency of certain genetic traits. Some studies suggest a link between these patterns and a slightly increased risk of rare conditions. However, as modern travel and marriage expanded, these inbreeding patterns have decreased. Today, the Basque population remains one of Europe's most unique, both genetically and culturally. Rise and fall. An empire that ruled for centuries, only to lose it all. The Habsburgs controlled Central Europe from medieval times until World War I, using clever strategies to stay in power. One major tactic, marrying within their own family. But that backfired badly. Generations of inbreeding led to serious health problems, weakening their rulers. Some, like Charles II of Spain, could barely rule at all. In 1736, Maria Theresa married Francis Stephen of Lorraine, forming the Habsburg-Lorraine dynasty. Their descendants, including Marie Antoinette, shaped European history. They fought wars, expanded territories, and ruled vast lands. But as revolutions spread and modern nations formed, their power crumbled. By 1918, after World War I, their empire finally collapsed. A once great dynasty, undone by its own ambitions. Horrific truth of Cult Clan. This case shocked Australia to its core. In June 2012, a child's innocent words on a school playground exposed one of the darkest family secrets in history. A single sentence unraveled a horror hidden in plain sight. The Colt family lived deep in the Australian outback, far from people. For generations, they practiced extreme inbreeding. Brothers with sisters, fathers with daughters, uncles with nieces. When authorities finally discovered them, they found children who couldn't speak properly, didn't know how to bathe, and lived in filthy conditions. The Colts weren't just another isolated family. Their disturbing lineage spanned 4 generations, making them one of the most extreme cases of inbreeding ever recorded, on par with ancient Egyptian royalty. Inca Civilization.
Inca armies were incredibly numerous in terms of soldiers, 50,000, 100,000, and even more in certain cases. So it was a huge strength.
The Inca civilization has a history so fascinating that people have talked about it for centuries. In the 15th century, they built the largest empire in South America, ruling over 10 million people. Their cities, like Machu Picchu, stood as incredible feats of engineering, built without mortar, yet so precisely crafted that not even a knife blade could fit between the stones. But in 1532, everything changed. Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro arrived, and within a few years, the mighty empire fell. Yet, some legends refuse to fade. One such tale is that of Patak Kamek, a mysterious figure said to have defied fate itself. Some believe he vanished into the mountains, while others think he left behind secrets hidden within Machu Picchu's walls. The Incas saw their rulers as sons of the sun, destined to rule forever. But their empire's fall was as swift as its rise, with mysteries that still puzzle the world today.
They choose specific places with sacred mountains, and they adapted the architecture to the nature and not imposing architecture.
House of Bourbon. Science isn't just shaping the future, it's also rewriting history. Genetic genealogy has given researchers the power to verify identities, even of long-lost royals. One of the most fascinating cases involves the House of Bourbon, a dynasty that ruled France for centuries. The Bourbon line began in 1272 and gained power when Henry IV became king in 1589. Their rule continued until the French Revolution, when Louis XVI was executed in 1793. Though briefly restored, the dynasty's reign ultimately ended in 1830. But centuries later, modern science reopened their story. Researchers tested a blood sample and a severed head, believed to belong to Louis XVI and Henry IV. However, DNA analysis contradicted prior identifications, casting doubt on their true origins. This discovery reshaped historical narratives, proving that even the past can still hold surprises, waiting for science to uncover the truth. Tangled Crown. Europe's royal families had one rule: marry within the family. It kept power in the bloodline, but it also came with a cost. Queen Victoria's kids spread across Europe, marrying into different royal houses. Belgium's King Leopold I was the mastermind, pulling the strings and building a giant family web. But too much inbreeding led to weak health, strange conditions, and kings who weren't exactly fit to rule. Leopold II had big dreams. He wanted Belgium to be rich and powerful. So he took Congo, turned it into his private property, and made people suffer for profit. Millions paid the price. Today, the royals still hold on to their history. Some say it's tradition, others call it a mess. This family tree has deep roots and some twisted branches. Bankers' power. Jacob II quickly proved himself to be a financial genius. He modernized the family's banking operations, embracing double-entry bookkeeping and adopting innovative investment strategies. But his true power came from his ability to lend money to Europe's most influential rulers. He even financed Emperor Maximilian I, securing his family's influence in the Holy Roman Empire. Later, he played a key role in funding Charles V's bid for the throne, ensuring the Fugger family held immense political power. In return, he gained mining rights across Europe, controlling vast amounts of silver and copper resources crucial to the continent's economy. However, his influence came with controversy. The Fugger banking empire helped shape capitalism, but it also deepened economic divisions, contributing to conflicts like the Protestant Reformation and the 30 Years' War. By the time Jakob's era came to an end in 1525, he had reshaped Europe's financial system, leaving behind a legacy both admired and criticized to this day. Hidden World. Deep in Pennsylvania, the Amish live by rules most of us can't imagine. No cars, no phones, no internet, just simple living, hard work, and faith. But in a world flooded with information, they choose to stay in the past. On purpose. Why? Because they don't trust outside influence. To them, modern technology brings more harm than good. But that doesn't mean they reject all progress. Some use solar power or diesel generators.
They don't connect to our electricity. It doesn't mean they can't generate their own with solar or wind power or even a diesel generator for business.
Education stops at 8th grade, as they believe that higher learning could pull them away from their way of life. Marriages stay within the community, keeping traditions alive. Their ancestors arrived in the 1700s. Escaping persecution and breaking the rules has consequences. Being cut off, even from family. To outsiders, it's a mystery, but to them, it's the only way to live. While the world speeds forward, the Amish remain exactly where they choose to be.
They're not relying on any electricity. They're not relying on anything necessarily modern. If electricity goes out, they're not doomed.
Nothing's imported.
No.
Everything's like consumed here.
Yep.
Island of Colorblind Legacy. Pingalap is a remote island in the Pacific Ocean, known not for its beauty, but for its unique population. Many of its residents are completely colorblind. It affects a large percentage of the island's 250 inhabitants, making it the place with the highest concentration of total colorblindness in the world. The condition traces back to a devastating typhoon that wiped out most of the population, leaving only 20 survivors, including a king who carried the gene responsible for achromatopsia. This gene, which he then passed to the following generations, spread as he had multiple children with his 3 wives. Multiple inbred matings further increased the prominence of this trait in the Pingalapese population. Despite their condition, the people of Pingalap have adapted. Their world may lack color, but they experience life in a way few others do, a unique vision in black, white, and shades of gray. Hutterites Way of Life. Most people chase success, money, and new technology, but the Hutterites live a completely different way, one that hasn't changed for centuries. In Alberta, a Hutterite colony opened its doors for a rare black and white film, offering a glimpse into their world of faith, hard work, and simple living. Private ownership doesn't exist. Everything, from homes to food to income, is shared.
You eat, you drink, you work, or anything of the parts. Praise God. He is the one that can give you power in doing your work.
Farming and craftsmanship sustain their communities, while strict religious rules shape daily life. Each day begins before dawn. Men head to the fields, tending to expansive farms, and women gather in communal kitchens, preparing meals that nourish the entire colony. Children, after attending the Kleine Kinderschule from a young age, join their peers in colony schools, learning both academics and community values. The modern world keeps evolving, but the Hutterites remain rooted in tradition. Their way of life is passed down through generations, unchanged by outside influences. For them, faith and unity matter above all else. Goler Clan. What if I tell you there was a family so cut off from the world that their secrets stayed hidden for generations? In the mountains of Nova Scotia, the Goler Clan lived in complete isolation. No connection to the outside world. Just a tight-knit community where poverty and secrecy ruled. But in 1986, everything changed. Authorities uncovered a disturbing reality, one that had been festering for decades. Multiple family members were charged with abuse, and the truth sent shockwaves through the nation. The Goler's way of life was no longer a secret. Even today, the story of the Goler Clan remains one of the most unsettling chapters in Canadian history. Terrible person.
David Caresh was a monster. He was a highly unstable, self-proclaimed messiah who used the Bible and used scriptures as a weapon.
David Caresh was a deeply troubled man who rose to power within the Branch Davidian sect. In the 1980s, he claimed to be the Messiah, using his self-proclaimed divine authority to control every aspect of his followers' lives. The group, an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, was already steeped in doomsday prophecies. But under Caresh's leadership, it became a militant, isolated community. He convinced his followers to prepare for an impending apocalypse and to give up their independence. Caresh's power grew through manipulation, religious extremism, and control over the people he called his family. His totalitarian rule led to a standoff with the FBI in 1993, resulting in a tragic loss of life.
He became all-powerful in a way that only a charismatic religious figure can to his or her flock. And people were willing to give him their children if they misbehaved. And he beat them quite severely.
Manson's legacy.
All the pain that you've caused people, all the anguish you've caused.
I don't know pain. I don't know pain. I have no depth of pain. I have no depth of suffering. I don't know ridicule.
In the late 1960s, Charles Manson led a group of followers, most of them young women, into committing shocking and violent acts that terrified the world. Manson, a manipulative figure, created a commune where his followers believed his twisted teachings. This group was responsible for the tragic loss of actress Sharon Tate and others. Though Manson passed away in prison, 3 of his followers are still alive, including Leslie Van Houten, who could soon be freed after 50 years behind bars. Victims' families, like Deborah Tate, Sharon's sister, are still fighting to keep them behind bars.
I don't think that people that were condemned to death, that are undoubtedly guilty of the most heinous crimes in American history, should be let out simply because they're 60 years old.
Hohenzollern Dynasty. Throughout history, dynasties have shaped nations, leaving a lasting impact on their cultures, politics, and futures. On that list of influential families is the Hohenzollern Dynasty. Once rulers of Prussia and later Germany, they built a powerful empire. But their rise to power came at a cost. To keep the bloodline pure, the Hohenzollerns often arranged cousin marriages. At first, it seemed like a clever strategy to preserve their legacy. However, as generations passed, the harmful effects of inbreeding became evident, with genetic disorders weakening the family. This led to political instability, and over time, the dynasty's power began to fade. What once ensured their dominance ultimately played a role in their decline. History of Donald Wessels. Donald Wessels comes from a family with a history marked by both success and challenges. His mother passed away when he was young, and his father later married her sister, Donna Johns, who raised him. Over the years, the Wessels family has seen several generations rise and fall, much like many other families with deep roots. Donald himself has been shaped by the legacy of his ancestors, though not without its share of complexities. In earlier generations, some members of the family engaged in practices like cousin marriages, hoping to keep wealth and power within the family. Unfortunately, this led to health issues and genetic disorders, affecting the family line in ways that caused a decline in influence over time. Evidence of crime causation. A long time ago, people thought that polygamy would keep their family strong, but history proved them wrong. The Kallikak family became a famous example. One man had children with 2 women, one from a rich family and one from a poor family. Over time, the rich woman's children lived successful lives, but many of the poor woman's children struggled with sickness, crime, and poverty. Some people use this story to say that bad traits run in families. They even supported unfair rules about who should have children. Even polygamy led to tangled family trees. But today, we know the truth. A person's future isn't just about family blood. It's also about how they grow up and the chances they get. Silent burden. In some cultures, marrying a cousin is common. Families believe it keeps traditions strong, but science has revealed a serious problem. When close relatives have children, there is a higher chance of genetic diseases. In places like Bradford, UK, where many British Pakistanis marry first cousins, doctors have seen more rare disorders in children. The story of Mohsin is no exception. Born to first cousin parents, he has a rare genetic disease that has left him blind and unable to walk properly. 2 of his younger sisters were born with the same condition. Genetic experts warn that these risks are real. While traditions are important, understanding the science can help families make informed choices for healthier future generations.
For any particular gene, you get 2 copies, one from your mother and one from your father. If you have a single defective gene, or mutation as we call it, there's no outward manifestation. And this can just be passed from parents to children to children to grandchildren with no effect. It's only when both parents happen to be carriers, and then there is a 25% chance that a child would get the double dose. They have no normal gene and they suffer from the disease. First cousins share grandparents.
Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.